Welcome to News with a View, hosted by me, John A. Costa. We're doing some testing today, so you might see this coming in and out from live video to different video. We're trying to make some changes here and trying our best to make this all work so it looks good and sounds good. Today is the 20, no, should be the 25th today, right? Yes. And this would be episode 60 in our series. Trying to do as much as we can with trying to be objective in what news is out there. For the Republicans and, of course, for the conservatives and Democrats. Now, Democrats, I just label as progressives. They're not Democrats anymore. The Democratic Party, to me, does not exist any longer. It is made up of fanatical socialists, communists, and they just will not listen to reason. They scream and yell about, democracy and democracy and democracy, and yet they don't follow it. They refuse to follow the Constitution. They refuse to follow the laws. And they did that with voting. They did that with sanctuary states. They screamed and yelled, about rights. And when the federal government said, well, listen, we don't think abortion should be a federal issue. No one should say yes to it by the federal government, and no one should say no to it by the federal government. It's a state issue. And as such, it went back to the states. But no one's rights. President Trump hasn't taken anyone's rights away yet. You just constantly hear these people who are getting airtime from news outlets, and they get their 60 seconds of who know their facts aren't right. 98% of them, their facts are not correct. They're arresting only brown people. It's not true. They're arresting citizens. True if they're criminals. And yes, mistakes happen all the time with ID, and the police see something and what they think it is different than what is actually going down, and it has to be rectified where it really didn't need to be rectified. There was no crime. The intent, the probable cause was not there. But that happens in very rare occasions, but it does happen. And we have a Constitution with the 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendments that really fortify that right. Now, when an illegal, and that is a person undocumented and unknown to the government, that they're inside the boundaries and territories of the United States, that is a civil offense. And that never changed. That's been that way, you know, forever, as long as I've been alive. And under civil, you don't get a lawyer. It isn't like, well, a lawyer will be, at no charge to you if you can't afford one, blah, blah, blah. Or you need a lawyer right now, we'll get your lawyer, and then we'll see if you can't afford a lawyer. But you get to be represented. But you don't get that right if you're not a citizen and are here illegally. You get that right if you're here on a visa, if you're here on a vacation. You get those rights, but you don't get the rights like that. Anyone, I don't get that right civilly. If someone sues me in civil court, I can't. I have to hire an attorney or represent myself or settle it. I have the same problem than a person who is here illegally when it comes to a civil matter. But you hear the way the progressives say it. It's that somehow President Trump took that right away that they had. They never had that right. And under Homeland Security, under ICE, since its formation after 9/11, laws and such have been tied, and police privileges have been given to this federal agency. Border Patrol has always had, we've always had Border Patrol in my lifetime. We always had immigration checkpoints at our designated border crossing locations, airports, and things of that nature in my lifetime. None of that has changed. Some have been restricted due to COVID at the time and other things, but for the most part, nothing has changed. The way you become an American citizen, the way you enter the United States, really has not changed in the procedural aspect, but it has changed that we don't let enemy states send their people here without really careful vetting. And they must go through the process. There's always the instance of TPS, which is temporary protection status. The Cubans had it, the Haitians had it. They gave that to Latin American countries and South American countries, and even in Mexico. Mexico got it. And just about anyone that wanted it through the Obama administration, through the Clinton administration, through the Biden administration could just show up and go, I'm afraid. Okay. You got status. Now you have to appear and you have to go in, and it has to, you have a process. Now a lot of those people weren't doing the process. So as such, they lost their TPS. And in certain instances, under President Trump, he said, you don't need protected status anymore. You can go back to Haiti. You can go back to Mexico. They have a police. You can go back to Ecuador. They took taking care of their gangs. You no longer need this to be a sanctuary. So what happened? What did the Democrats start to do? The Democrats started going, well, we're going to call this a sanctuary city, where we're not going to enforce the immigration policies. So if we arrest someone and they have no status or they have an immigration, we're not going to report that to the government. And they said, well, we don't have to under the 10th Amendment. We don't have to do that. And that's not really what the 10th Amendment says, but no one wanted to fight. They and here's the problem, is that when you take it to the court, and in this case it would go all the way up to the Supreme Court, that decision becomes the law of the land until it doesn't become the law of the land. So it's not easy to reverse the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has reversed itself over 200 times. So I think it might even, I'll look it up, but I just remembered in my head 262 times. But it could be 2,000, and I'm just getting the number wrong. But they can. So bad law is bad law, and they'll look at it. But you had sanctuary cities. There's no place in immigration policies and laws where you can create a sanctuary city. You can't even say, well, we'll vote for a sanctuary, we'll put it on the ballot. You can't make something that is illegal under the federal government legal for the state. Doesn't work that way. So the argument was, well, okay, if the state says or the city says, we're not going to allocate resources, because the reality is that, all right, this guy had a petty crime. All right, nothing horrible. He jumped a turnstile. No one was hurt, but he did violate the law. So we caught him, ran a check on him, make sure he wasn't wanted for anything major, and then just gave him a ticket that he has to appear in court. Pay the fine or appear in court. Okay. But during part of that check, if they found out that, hey, this guy wasn't born here, he's not showing up anywhere. What was the case in the past was the city or town or whoever would hold them for a reasonable amount of time till the federal agencies that could take him would come get him. Now they'd call and go, hey, do you want him? No? Hey, cut him loose. Show up for your court date, though. Pay your fine, whatever, but you let him loose. Now, what the states and local governments are doing is that saying, I don't even have to take the time to make that phone call. I don't have to do that. That takes time, that takes manpower, that takes money. And under the 10th Amendment, I don't have to do your dirty work for free. Now, if the government turned around and said, we'll pay you, That's an option. The government, the state or the city or municipality could turn around and go, thanks, but no thanks. We're still not doing it. Because I only got X amount of room in my jail over here. And even if he would start paying me, I couldn't do it. It's feasibly impossible. Unless you take them, 15 minutes after I call you. And it is a valid reason. I can get there with that. But the municipalities also have to realize that when you're unwilling or unable to do that for the federal government has every right to come into your town and they'll do the job. Now, Border Patrol is allowed to go from any body of the water that's connected to another country, any lake, any river, anything that is connected. So you have to look at that and say, from our borders, Border Patrol is allowed to stop people 100 miles and demand identification. Not ask for it, demand it. This has been a Fourth Amendment issue for a long time. You could look at it both ways. Both left and right can have good arguments on why it's a violation and then why it's not a violation. So, in that sense, Border Patrol has a lot of power and can look pretty good. That means that on Long Island, they go from one end of Long Island to the other end of Long Island. In New York, they can go 100 miles from the ocean. They can go 100 miles from the Canadian border. And you could take that 100 miles and go all the way around a map and come back and around. Now, ICE has the ability to go anywhere in the United States and perform their task, which is finding out if you're a citizen or not. Now, people complain, they go, well, how many blonde-haired, blue-eyed people is ICE stopping compared to how many brown people who are wearing a sombrero or leaving the El Morco or, working in a restaurant. And there are limits on where where ICE is allowed to go. They're only allowed to go into public access areas. They cannot, without permission of the owner or manager, they cannot just walk into the back of a restaurant. They can't do that. Now, if they were chasing someone from the area that was serving the general public and they ran into that restaurant, yep, they can go in there. and you look up why. I'm not going to tell you why. You can look it up. But they can do that. They have probable cause. The question of ICE is warrantless entry into a home. Yeah, I absolutely have a problem with that aspect of ICE saying that they can go into anyone's house, and that's a big no-no to me, because the only way they can get into a house normally without any type of warrant is through consent. Unless there was something so imminent, we chased someone in there. We we hear people trying to get out back windows, and we're chasing them, or they're only allowed around the curtilage area of your property. They can't go and look in a window. Can't do that. And if they want to enter your house, they have to have a warrant. Now, they can have an administrative warrant, which anyone can sign. I feel that warrantless entry into a private residence, which includes an apartment, condo, not a tent, mind you, but a private home. And I would say that it probably doesn't even extend into a motorhome being trailered or driven. You can refuse them entry, and they could, the police can go from there. If it's just for a traffic stop, their time with you can only be as long as it would take for them to handle a traffic ticket. And they can't whittle away the time and where you wouldn't let them in, and they go, well, we're going to get a drug sniffing dog here, or we're going to get a dog, so you have to wait. No, you can ask, am I free to go, or if I'm being detained. Once that happens, the clock is set, and the police are under very, very tight Supreme Court rulings on what they can do. So, and that's not protecting the criminal. That's just giving the criminals the same rights that protect me. And it's not a crazy world. So, my basic feeling with the Democrats is that they're doing everything possible to protect illegals. People here on temporary status, that's only at the whim of the president or Congress if they make legislation of such. But then that has to be kept going. It's just not meant one time and set it and forget it. Hence the terminology of TPS, temporary protected status. And then you got Obama, dreamers, and parolees. There's no such word in immigration language for that. No such word. Now, the president, under the executive power, could do it, and they have, but that executive power can also be removed by the presidential pen, and has. And where does it throw those people? Some of these people have been TPS for 20 years. Some of these people are in prisons. And some of these people are just good people working and trying to make this a place where they could live and raise a family. They pay taxes. They are engaged. They're good people. And those good people should have been seeking a path to citizenship. And I understand that. My grandfather came over in 1913, and became a citizen in 1923. And my grandmother and him were already married by that time, so she didn't think that she needed it until the beginnings of World War II, and my dad, who was a naval officer, told his mom, "You better run down there as soon as you can and become a citizen." And she went through the thing, and she did it, and she became a citizen, and that was wonderful. My great-grandmother never became a citizen. My grandmother's mother never became a citizen, that I'm aware of. She was just here. I don't even know if any of you are older who are listening to this. At one time, we used to see, it's January. It's your time to go to the United States Post Office if you're a registered alien living in America to fill out your form. And we were all, come on, get back to Rocky and Bullwinkle. Let's go. But that's what they used to do. It's not the case anymore. And a lot of these people just fell off to the side. People just stopped paying attention to them. Until they started showing up to vote. And even though it was very limited, because a lot of these people like staying under the radar, they didn't want it. They weren't going to rock the boat. They're staying under the radar. They're not messing around in anything where they're going to be arrested. They're not doing that. So, and I would say that 65% of the people that came here illegally were looking for economic. But when they started showing up on government rolls for welfare, for EBT, for Medicaid, and there was no tying them back to immigration, and then the Democrat, no, you can't do that. You can't use that information to go over to that agency. Can't do it. It's a privacy issue. And the argument should have been, no, I understand that, and we'll have people that will look at it and say, nope, they're fine, good to go. But until we know, because they didn't say anything about their immigration status because they weren't allowed to be asked it, there could be a criminal element here. And Democrats knew all this. The Democrats were very crafty. Call them Democrafties. because they were able to hide these people in plain sight. You can see them, you can't ask them anything. You can't stop them for any reason. And if you do stop them, you're not allowed to ask them that question. And when people started going, well, we can, no, you're a racist. You're an isolationist. What else don't you like? Who else do you hate? Well, it has nothing to do with hate, but we're allowed to know who's in our country, right? No, you don't. You don't have that right. And this is where the Democrats slid off the cliff into the abyss and became no borders, no immigration, and defund the police. This is where it all happened, folks. And if you don't think so, you got another thing coming. I never hit this button to record, so I'm recording now. A little button with my little 4K camera. Just see what it is. Maybe I'll blend it in. I don't know. But I think the main problem for the Democrats is they've gone so far left that it's impossible for a lot of them to turn around now. Because the next guy is saying, I'm going to be more left than him. Now, they win in certain areas because they've districted and broke these things down where they should only have 6 congressional districts, they got 11. Under redistricting. And where they had, 1 district, they got 4. And they know they'll all be Democrats, but now we got 4 more seats. And this is what they're doing. And it is really, honestly, and I don't care if the Democrats, I don't care if the Republicans, this is why the census and the questions they asked on the census are so important. Now, states are allowed to run their own election, and the states are allowed on how federal elections are held, except for the presidency. So, you see that if they make all these districts, they get more. No one gets more senators. You only get 2 senators from every state, no matter your size, no matter your population size. But if you can get more people, if you can get more districts using the same amount of people, I can double and triple the amount of Republicans or Democrats that are in the House of Representatives, and that's big business. The president is just a cheerleader and has, executive power. It's still pretty hefty. But they're in for 4 years, 8 years max. The House of Representatives, you could be in there forever. A senator, you could be in there forever. Now, with all this talk about term limits, what do you think both parties want to do? They want to maximize their sting. So they redistrict. And they're hedging their bets. Hakeem Jeffries, the cheerleader for the minority, and when I say not minorities, but the minority members in the House of Representatives. You see where he is, telling everyone, more Democrats, we're getting more Democrats. Yeah. But what he's not telling them is loads of moderate Democrats are fleeing. And it's not switching party affiliation. It's switching how they vote in the polling booth. In the booth, the election booth, how they're voting. So you had Cory Booker the other day in I think he was in Detroit, saying that we need foot soldiers out there to fight for democracy, to defend democracy. What the hell is he talking about, foot soldiers? Because America is heading towards a darkness. Really, people are trying to get here by any means possible. They're not seeing it as a darkness, Senator. They're seeing it as a light, a beacon. And he turned around and goes, this army must redeem the dream of America. No, dreams are just dreams, sir. It's laws and people that make this country what it is. It's not dreams. Dreams get you nowhere except maybe a good sleep or a scary sleep. I don't know. You had Senator Schumer on the floor, and that's what really is this whole thing. Get on the Senate floor and announce that he spoke for all Americans when he said the American people dislike all the men and women in ICE, all the men and women in Border Patrol and Border Protection. Now, he might speak for the people of New York State, but he doesn't speak for me. And this is another guy who is just outright lying. And Acting Secretary Mullins of the Department of Homeland Security was on Fox and called him, hey, he's a lying scumbag. Hey, good for you. Adam Schiff out there asking, goes, what does DH funding do for you? How does it help you? Well, it helps keep criminals out of America that you allowed in, so we can capture them now. And it helps to say who should be here and who shouldn't be here, and how you got into America. And the reason we're spending billions and billions and billions of dollars is because Democrats from Clinton, Obama, and Biden failed to uphold the Constitution of the United States. They failed to uphold. They didn't. They didn't. And they did it for, not because they were stupid, not because they were ignorant. They did it for votes. So, Senator Murphy out of Connecticut is saying Americans are suffering. Medical, food. Yeah. Well, because we're spending billions again. Not only do we have to protect our borders, which we should have been doing, but now we got to clean up the mess that you created. So it's twice as much. You want to know why we need to spend $150 billion on Department of Homeland Security? Is because you, Democrats, squandered the couple of billions we gave you that you should have been protecting and told them don't protect. Let them go. You catch them, let them go. If they're in America, just take their names, let them go. Unbelievable. Billions. Billions. And for that, there can be no forgiveness for. So, Democrats just want to go further left and be more of a pain in the butt. And I think that this will come down on them like bricks. Like bricks. I'm looking at something. If I could possibly see stuff, and if I could see myself, my show going out, I don't think I can. Maybe I can. I go here, and I have no idea. I don't think so. I see a lot of stuff going live. I don't see me going live. So I don't know how that works going live on YouTube. I do it. I go out live because it records, and that's my standby in case my switcher record failed to capture it, and I could always wait a couple hours, grab it, and download it and edit it. So, all right, I'm going to finish this up. I got things I need to do. It is now 5:30, and I'm sure wifey is not happy about me being up here just about all day futzing around with this stuff. Again, I thank you. I thank everyone who has joined my page, who took the time to send me messages and comments. Please do. I don't mind them. And, with that, I always say, please give to a charity if you can. Check that charity out. Just don't give it to anyone. Don't become a victim helping victims. Please give to a local food bank. It's an immediate help right to the area, right then and there where they need it. Also, they need monetary so they can address major issues going on in front of them. Not just, handing out some pork and beans and things like that. Say a prayer. Prayer does work no matter what a Democrat may tell you. If you want to know why I say that, leave me a comment. All right, and with that, I'm going to say good night. Again, I'm going to ask people that if you're watching this and you live in the Myrtle Beach area, tomorrow, the 26th, from 12 noon to 4 p.m. at Socrates Station in Socrates, South Carolina. It's a restaurant, bar, grill. It's holding a benefit, and it's $10 a head to get in. There's a cash bar. There's going to be prizes and raffles and things like that. So that's Socrates Station, Sunday, the 26th of April, 12 noon to 4 p. $10 a person to get in, and you get a nice spaghetti dinner with meatballs. All right, thank you, everyone. Be good, be safe. As in this time, I really do fade to black.